Okay, so our third method of learning how to solve for systems of linear equations is elimination. So the idea here is that you can manipulate the equations or to cancel things out. So for example, say we have the equations x plus y equals 5 and x plus 2y equals 7. Using process of elimination, we could go ahead and subtract this to get one equation. So if we have x minus x, we're going to 0. Y minus 2y, so that's y minus 2y is negative y, and 5 minus 7 is negative 2. So if negative y equals negative 2, we can divide by negative 1 on both sides, and we get y equals 2. Now that we know y equals 2, we can plug it into any of these equations to solve for x. So let's go ahead and plug it into maybe the first one. So we have x plus 2, because we know y equals 2, equals 5. So let's subtract 2 on both sides, and we get x equals 3. So this system of equation, the solution would be 3, 2. So that is the point where these two would intersect. Now, solving systems of equations basically means that if you're given two equations, so these are just kind of notes on the sides. So equation 1 and equation 2, you can either add or subtract them from one another to get a third equation, which you can thereby use to solve. So let's look at a different example. Let's go ahead and look at the example where 3y plus 2x equals 6 and 5y minus 2x equals 10. Well, if we look at this, we can see if we add 2x and negative 2x, we eliminate x from the system, which is what we want. So we can go ahead and we can add these, because when we add 2x and negative 2x, we eliminate the x's, and we get left with 8y equals 16. So divide by 8 on both sides, and we get y equals 2. We can go ahead and plug that into, let's say, this equation right here, and we get 3y plus 2x equals 6. So 6 plus 2x equals 6. 2x equals 0. And so x equals 0. So we see that our system, the solution is at 0, 2, when x equals 0 and y equals 2. Now, what happens when we're given an equation or two equations that don't cancel out, don't eliminate right away? So in this third example, let's say we have the equations 3x plus y equals 9 and 5x plus 4y equals 22. Well, we can see, okay, we can't eliminate the x's and we can't eliminate the y's, but we can manipulate one of these equations so that we can. So let's look at the first equation. Well, if we had a 4y, we could subtract the two equations to eliminate the y. So let's go ahead and make that a 4y. But if you were changing that to 4y, you're going to have to multiply the whole equation. So this is going to turn into 12x plus 4y equals 36. Now, given that equation, so if we have 12x plus 4y equals 36, and we also have the original equation, second equation, 5x plus 4y equals 22, we can subtract. Let me just erase this to get some space. We can subtract this to eliminate the y's, because 4y minus 4y is 0. 12x minus 5x is 7x. And 36 minus 22 is 14. Divide by 7 on both sides, and we get x equals 2. Well, great. Now, the last thing we need to do is we need to plug in x equals 2 into one of the equations. So let's go ahead and maybe plug it into this equation. So we get 5 times 2 plus 4y equals 22. 10 plus 4y equals 22. 4y equals 12, and then y equals 3. Okay. So here we did have to manipulate by multiplying. Let's look at one more example. So here we have the two equations. We have x plus 3y equals -5, and 4x minus y equals 6. Well, we could either multiply the first equation by 4, and then we can subtract, or we can go ahead and we could multiply the second equation by 3, and then add those two equations. So here, if we multiply this whole thing by 3, we're going to get 12x minus 3y equals 18. Looking at the first, so I'm just going to go ahead and write the first equation under it. We can go ahead and add these equations, because -3y plus 3y is 0, and we would eliminate the y's. So 12x plus x is going to give us 13x, and 18 minus 5 is going to give us 13, so divide by 13 on both sides, and we get x equals 1. To solve for y, we can go ahead and plug it in. So we can go ahead and plug it into, let's say, the first equation. So we get 1 plus 3y equals -5. 3y equals -6, because we're subtracting 1. And y equals -2. So our solution to the system is 1, -2. Okay, so you can manipulate the equations to either add or subtract them from one another. Do be very careful about negatives, though, because that's where it can get tricky. Thanks.